Greetings, citizens, and thanks for tuning in to Nindie Nation. I'm Jeff, and today on episode 181, we're checking out a baker's dozen of brand new indie games coming to the Nintendo Switch eShop this week. So head on down to the comments and tell me which games are topping your list, as well as if you'd like to see any of this week's releases live during our Nindies Nite stream this Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern. And with that out of the way, my friends, let's get right into it. These are the 13 notable Nindies hitting the Nintendo Switch through Sunday, April 23rd. We kick off the new releases on Tuesday the 18th with a game developed and published by Modus Games that walks the line between a rhythm game and a fighter. God of Rock puts you in a cyberpunk world where you'll pick from a dozen fighters who all compete to become the titular God of Rock. Across 8 stages that change based on which of the 40 original songs you pair it up with, the presentation will make you feel like you're playing a modern fighting game until the actual fight kicks off. You follow a Guitar Hero-like track that runs horizontally and match button presses with their respective prompts. Whenever both players hit a note, they cancel out each other's attacks, so it's mostly a battle of attrition, save for the occasional special moves that can deal damage or mess with your opponent. As such, you're not there just to beat the song, so to speak. You're there to outlast your opponent in order to win. It looks like a fun time, but I need to hear more of the music before deciding if I want to drop $30. At least for that price, though, you get a handful of modes, local and online multiplayer, and even a track editor. So if you do pick the game up, there's at least a lot of content there for the price. The only game dropping on Wednesday the 19th is developed by Team Earth Wars in collaboration with their publisher, whose name I stared at for a good 20 seconds before realizing,
oh, it says 1 or 8.
Because, the best names are the ones that spit in the face of grammar in an effort to look cool.
Actually, I was sarcastic, but that's kind of the truth.
Anyways, Lost Epic has all the action RPG trappings I love to see in games I intend to play while watching or listening to something else. You know what I mean? You set out to defeat gods during an ongoing war, and you do so by exploring a large 2D environment while beating the crap out of every enemy in sight. Shockingly, I found the opinion of this game to be shared almost universally across the internet as it came to other platforms last summer. It boils down to a fun, combo-driven combat system that's always evolving thanks to farming and crafting items while grinding out enemy encounters, but that's where, for most, the issue lies. Apparently, you see most of the game within the first couple of hours, but there's so much grinding required, it'll take most players around 10 hours to finish, to the extent that I found most reviews pondering if the game was initially designed as a free-to-play title or if it was just unnecessary padding. With a discounted price tag of $13.49, I can understand the challenge. Do you release a short game with an MSRP of $18? Or do you pad it out to give players more game time per dollar? There's justifiable criticism for either approach, but from what I've seen, it looks like at the very least, you'll constantly be unlocking new skills and stats as you grind, so at least there's that. It does remind me of last year's Eiyuden Chronicles Rising, both visually, structurally, and based on its reviews. But I enjoyed my time with that game and usually don't mind the grind. If I hadn't just finished Sword of the Vagrant, which is very similar, I'd probably be all over Lost Epic. For now, though, it'll go on the wish list until I'm ready for some good old 2D action grinding. And now, citizens, we've got more games to cover on Thursday than in most episodes in their entirety. So kick back, grab your favorite burning apparatus, put some of that magical lettuce in there, don't forget a bag of Doritos, and let's see what's releasing on 4/20. Featuring a character design that looks like someone dropped Sonic the Hedgehog into a vat of caramel, Spicy Gyro Games said screw it and just copied pretty much everything about the world of Sonic in their precision platformer Panic Porcupine. 6 months after its warm reception on PC, HOF Studios brings Not Sonic to the Switch for $7.99. Take classic Sonic, zoom out the camera, and blend it with Super Meat Boy, and you're on the right track. There's much more focus on avoiding obstacles thanks to spikes and traps that are all over the place, but otherwise, given its price and mostly positive reviews, Panic Porcupine seems to be like a pretty fun time. Tatsu Alpha is a studio based in Tokyo that was founded by the director of Shadows of the Damned and Lollipop Chainsaw back when he was at Grasshopper. This week, they team up with Shueisha Games to release Arcana of Paradise: The Tower for $19.99. There's a demo already available, and I think it's probably worth checking out, because I'm struggling to tell if this game is going to be good or if it's just a janky clone. It follows the story of 20 kids that are living in a town all alone, and you must pick 2 at a time to venture into this tower where they can find food to bring back to the town. Gameplay-wise, it's a deck builder with procedurally generated levels, roguelike mechanics, and RPG elements! But just, what is up with this art style? Some of it looks like a modern game, some of it looks like a 90s anime, and the UI design seems to be all over the place. Climb the tower, fight turn-based card battles, and when you die, do it all over again. Come on, at this point, you know the drill. I like the premise, but I'm just so torn about the game's various elements. If you find yourself in the same camp, definitely give the demo a try first. It's there for a reason. And then after finding great success back in 2020, Toge Productions and Chorus Worldwide are back this week with Coffee Talk Episode 2, Hibiscus and Butterfly, for $13.49. If you don't recall the original, it sits somewhere between a visual novel and a dating simulator that takes place in an alternate version of Seattle, where humans coexist alongside orcs, elves, and other types of fantasy-themed monsters. You play as a barista, and as you learn more about your customers, you can make drinks that cause them to open up and tell you more. The original was widely acclaimed, so if you happen to like Episode 1, it's a safe bet that you'll probably dig Episode 2. And at first glance, I didn't think 10 Hearts looked like anything worth writing home about. But after I learned more about the game and Rogue Sun, the studio developing it, made up of people previously responsible for the Fable series, I've really come around on this one. Billed as an immersive narrative puzzle adventure with a deeply personal story, well, it's 3D Lemmings, and I think that sounds rad. Playing as a toy inventor in a fantastical Victorian era, your goal is to get little tin soldiers from point A to point B, and you do so by building super elaborate Rube Goldberg machines strewn about the inventor's workshop. When you're not building paths and contraptions, you'll learn more about the inventor and his family, and while I'm not sure if the story will be as compelling as the team claims, their past work in the industry does give me hope. I don't know that we've seen a take on Lemmings set in a 3D space before, so let me know if I'm missing something, but I'm super interested in what's going on here. If you are as well, you can check out 10 Hearts when it launches by way of Wired Productions for $29.99. Those of you who like The Binding of Isaac, listen up, because developer Space My Friend and publisher Jandusoft are looking right at you with their release of Cavity Busters for $12.49. With a similar gross art style, this bullet hell roguelike is much faster paced, maybe more akin to Enter the Gungeon, and if you've yet to figure it out, it happens to take place in someone's mouth. Gross. The levels are randomly generated, and it is a roguelike at its core, but as there are no RPG systems, it's more roguelike than a roguelite. So, sorry kids, no cheer for you. If you like everything you see here, but you're worried about it being a bullet hell, I'd say give it a try, because it includes accessibility options and even slow motion to help you get your bearings among the chaos. Just, don't forget to brush your teeth, because the last thing anyone wants is some little goober shooting spikes all over in your mouth.
Oh, that's nasty.
Alright, let's make a game, shall we? Take 1 part Final Fantasy logo, 1 part Dragon Quest logo, put them together, and we've got the logo, at least, for The Last Dragon Slayer. Now, give it isometric gameplay that's similar to a Zelda game, but with much more combat and less puzzle solving, and then toss in multiplayer for up to 4 people, and we're just about done. See, game development is easy. We're running out of budget, so unfortunately we've only got local co-op, nothing online as of yet, and we're running out of time, so we'll just leave the UI looking like a mess of default elements. But hey, I think we're ready to ship. We'll call ourselves Ignatios Productions, slap a $15 price tag on it, and assume we'll keep adding features to the game over time, and that, even if the game is a bit simple, it offers a good deal of fun for those of you who want a game that reminds them of The Legend of Zelda: Four Swords Adventures. See? Game development is easy. I don't know what everybody's whining about. If you like 3D first-person dungeon crawlers with JRPG battle mechanics, but you wish they were a little less full of, JRPG tropes and filled with more, freaky Japanese yokai, well, Labyrinth of Zangetsu is the game for you, and this one looks pretty sick. Developed by Acquire and published by P-Cube, this game is loaded to the brim with yokai-style visuals that would make Tekken's Yoshimitsu so very, very proud. You set out alongside a bunch of warriors to defeat the growing number of ink beasts and basically explore a huge ancient castle. There's 6 preset characters with 3 in the front and 3 in the back, but you can make your own custom characters too. It looks like a pretty cool adventure with a lot of replayability and a scenario that is quite unique nowadays. If this looks like a castle you want to explore, Labyrinth of Zangetsu will set you back $26.99. And I was so confused by this next one, but now that I look at it, it's actually pretty simple. You see, you are a delivery person, and Mr. Sun had his box of hats stolen. That is the story behind Mr. Sun's Hatbox, a slapstick comedy game by Kenny Sun that's all about seeking out and retrieving Mr. Sun's Hatbox. See? Simple. It also happens to be a side-scrolling action platformer with procedurally generated levels, roguelike mechanics, and, town building,
And base management.
and some crafting!
Some character creation.
Oh, let's get
Co-op campaign mode and
4-player deathmatch.
well, oh, and it's also got RPG elements! That one was a little tricky. If there's a game to define the indie trifecta that does it better than this game, you'll have to tell me, because this one looks like it takes the cake. You explore to progress the story, then return to the base, build out the base, recruit new characters, all of which have different classes and stats, sometimes with quirky abilities like you'd see in Rogue Legacy, and as soon as you've reaped your latest rewards, you select a new character and go do it all over again. All of this gameplay wrapped up in charming pixel art with a ridiculous sense of humor is just the kind of game I've been looking for lately, so I can't wait to give it a shot. Mr. Sun's Hatbox is published by Raw Fury, which is always a good thing, and it releases for $14.99. At first I was thinking that the easiest way to describe Wild Dogs was to say that it's like if Contra 3 The Alien Wars was released on the original Game Boy. Until I remembered that it was. Well, now pretend somebody else made Contra 3 for the original Game Boy, but you are playing on a Game Boy Color or a Super Game Boy where you can change the color palette, and that is basically Wild Dogs by Second Boss. Now, here's the thing. You might be thinking this is yet another 8-bit run-and-gun indie, but this one comes from the same developer who previously brought us Biolab Wars and Savage Halloween, so I have very high hopes for it. It releases for $9.99, is published by Cubite Interactive, and if you needed any more convincing, you get to have a good boy by your side as you ward off the alien invasion. Last up on Thursday is a slightly spooky puzzle adventure that is apparently a reimagining of a classic game I've never heard of, as Park Story releases by Person of Interests for $18.49. After crashing his car in Mahago Glen Country Park, Parker finds himself trying to unravel its secrets while deciding which ghosts he can trust and which happen to work for the, President of Hell. Thankfully, you will find ghosts who just need help resolving unfinished business, and you can become friends with, and then take the form of, some various animals roaming the park, and all of that will play into the puzzles you'll be solving throughout your adventure. This isn't necessarily my type of game, but I really like what they're doing here. And if you can't already tell by the trailer, there's a wide variety of gameplay types, and the story seems pretty interesting too. Maybe it's just my bias though, as I'm quite familiar with boys named Parker. I'm just thankful this game follows a young adult rather than the 5-year-old with the devil's hair who is obsessed with beating difficult video games and telling me everything he can recite about Pokemon. We round out the week as usual on Friday the 21st with the latest by Radaleka Games, this time teaming up with Renan Games to release Light of Life for $4.99. It follows an elf named Eleanor as she precision platforms her way across 5 worlds with 100 levels in total, using her bow and arrow as an air dash of sorts. It's yet another pixel platformer like we've already covered over 100 of, but this one looks like one of the better entries we've covered as of late. And at only $5 is yet another Radaleka game that could easily keep you busy for a weekend. It's definitely a better week than last week, with my picks going to Lost Epic, Cavity Busters, and Mr. Suns Hatbox. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't curious about God of Rock and Wild Dogs 2. But what about you? Tell me down in the comments which games are going on your wish list, and if you'd like to see any of these during this Thursday's Nindies Nite stream. On our next episode, we'll be covering the 1-bit exploration platformer Mangavania, the highly anticipated action-adventure Afterimage, and Desta, a cozy team-based tactics game from the developers behind Monument Valley that I think a lot of people are sleeping on. But that's all for next week, citizens, because we're all done for today. Thanks so much for watching, liking, subscribing, and sharing Nindie Nation with others. And, by the way, as a thank you to those of you sticking around to the end, tell you what, head down to the comments and leave a line, any line, from the lyrics to Semi-Charmed Life, you know, the 90s song by Third Eye Blind. Yeah, do that and I'll put you in a contest for a free game. Okay? Thanks for sticking around. Until next time, I'm Jeff. This has been Nindie Nation episode 181. And remember, no matter what type of game you're looking for, Nindie Nation will be right here to help you find just the thing to keep your Joy-Cons synced.